Hi there, it's Nicole for Lawn Fawn, and today I've got a card that's got multiple interactive pieces and parts to it, and it's showcasing the brand new Your Clawsome Stamps and Coordinating Dies, which is this cute little claw machine here that is just fantastic for all kinds of different celebrations. I've created a birthday card here and then a gift card holder on the inside. So the front interactive part is a slider claw, and on the inside we've got a flap and gift card holders. I did start by stamping the images from the stamp set, the Your Clawsome stamp set, on Nina smooth white cardstock, and I'm coloring them in with Copic markers. The colors I'm using are shown across the bottom of the screen. The red for the machine, I think I forgot to turn my camera on for that part, is our 24, 27, and 29. Then I'm going to color in the bears in all shades of neutral colors. So I've got kind of a tan, then I'll have a brown bear, I'll have a light gray, and then a little bit darker gray bear. And I'm just going to kind of alternate those colors. And not only for the bears in the claw machine, but the little individual bears, both the bear that's going to be attached to the claw slider, the bear sitting down near the base of the machine, and the bear on the inside of the card as well. So there's going to actually be 3 individual bears. When I started, I only stamped these first 2, not really thinking about how I wanted to decorate the gift card on the inside, and I felt like it really needed something once I got to that part of the card design. So just going to continue to color all these cute little bears in. I think they'd also be fun in like really bright colors as well. Maybe even rainbow design of some sort would be super fun. I went the very neutral way. I had this idea in mind for creating kind of a galaxy background behind it, almost like this is a game in an arcade somewhere. And you know how sometimes like the walls have like those sparkles? I think it's supposed to look kind of galaxy-like. I don't know. So I planned all along to have a very neutral background, and I felt like the neutral colors would go better with this card style. I did end up having to stamp. This is the second stamping of this stamp design. My first one, I got all the way through coloring the bears and the machine, and the color for the glass, I went way too dark with it, and it ended up looking so teal and really off. I didn't feel like it really had the look of glass, and it bothered me, so I had to re-stamp this and do it, which made this card take a little bit longer, but it was one of those things where there wasn't a fix for it. I usually try to find a fix, and I couldn't this time. Finish coloring in these last couple bears here before I finish coloring the rest of the machine. Also the claw at the top. I think it's just a really fun little stamp set. And I'm going to be using those slide on over dies, the smallest straight die, up at the top of this machine for the claw to actually move. And it was a little bit of a trick to find out the best way to make this a slider. Since it's such a small piece and it wasn't actually going to be covering up the slider track, so if I used a penny, you're going to see the penny sliding up there, and I didn't want that. So I'm going to show you my technique for fixing that. Now here's the glass with BG10. This is the cool shadow marker, and this is what I used the first time as well, but I went way, way, way dark with it. This time I'm barely outlining my images and then kind of blending out those edges with the colorless blender. Just going to kind of come in gently with a flicking or feathering motion from the sides of the machine, and again kind of go over those edges with my colorless blender. It's going to soften those and really keep the center of the machine white, but still give that illusion that this is glass. Now anything that's going to be on the machine itself that's going to be a gray is going to be a cool gray marker. I used warm gray markers for anything that was a bear. And there definitely is a difference in the shades of gray marker. The cool gray gives much more of a metal type of look, I think. So generally when I'm coloring in clothing or anything that is not an animal, I tend to go with the cool gray markers. If I'm coloring in critters of any kind, that is a warm gray. And that's just kind of how I've always done it. To me, that's how my eye sees those colors. But you can do whatever you want to do there. I did skip back over to coloring in these bears after I colored in the claw with my reds and cool grays. And then I'll need to go back and finish off the rest of the machine, kind of with some really light cool grays here for the little tube that the critter comes down and out of. Try to get that blend the way I want it to look. I think really the cool gray against the warm gray, maybe you can see it a little bit different or a little bit better on how those colors differ from one another. The darkest cool gray around the outside edge, and then that inside little piece, I'm going to go ahead and do cool gray again, just like the tube that the animal will come out of there. And keep blending. I really had to kind of work to figure out exactly how to get that to look the way I wanted it to give it that depth and dimension. Also, the controller over here, I took YG17 for just a tiny touch of green for one of the buttons, R24 for the other, and then some cool grays for the rest of the controller here. So I try to keep it this kind of light, but the little controller for getting the animal with the claw is a little bit darker with the darker cool gray markers. I'm going to take the coordinating dies now. I've got the slide on over die, plus I've got the Your Clawsome coordinating dies. And these are all going to be used to die cut all of the pieces here for the slider and the images. A lot of times I'll start with the background. On my card today, I did start with all of my little images, and then I'm going to go from there. This is definitely the focal point of the card, and so I really need it to be perfect in order to build the card from there, if that makes sense. I went ahead and die cut the slide on over and the outside shape for the claw machine at the same time. So when I pop that out, there's now a hole here at the top of the machine. And I'll show you how I fix that later so that it still appears to be red. Got my cute little teddy bears. There's also a unicorn. I think that would make for some super fun cards as well. There's a one-of-a-kind greeting in the Your Clawsome stamp set, so it will stand out against all the bears if you use the unicorn, which I think is fun too. There are the components. So I've just kind of laid everything out, making sure I like how it looks. And now I'm going to take this Slider Elements little slider piece. This is from My Favorite Things, but it's shaped more like I'd like to say oval, but kind of a rounded rectangle. So it's going to work great for this type of a slider where I don't want it to spin. And I'm simply taking a little glossy accents and attaching the teddy bear to the claw in a couple of places because this whole element needs to slide. And I want to be really careful. Then I'm going to put a little dab of glue on the back of the slider element and take this little slider piece and lay it there and set it aside to completely dry while I work on some other pieces of the card. I've got a couple of background pieces here. My background is die cut from some Storm Cloud cardstock using a small dotted rectangle stackable. And then the background for the whole thing is die cut from some white cardstock using a zigzag rectangle stackable. And I laid that slider element right back over my background when I had it where I wanted it to go and die cut that slider track again. the machine is going to be flush with this cardstock panel, then this cardstock panel will be popped up, allowing the slider to move. So you'll see that here in a little bit when I put the foam adhesive on the back of this. That way there aren't so many pieces that are raised up and dimensional. It's just going to be this one panel. To me, this was the best way to do this because sometimes you can get really dimensional when you're trying to do a slider card. I'm going to go ahead and add detail to the eyes on all the bears, also the noses with a black glaze pen. It really makes them pop. Another reason I chose to make the background panel pop instead of the claw machine is there's really not room around the top of that claw machine to add foam adhesive. So it would be almost impossible to do that, I think. I have a banner die cut from some black licorice cardstock using a banner die from Lawn Fawn. Then I'm going to take greetings from the Your Clawsome stamp set, stamp those with Versamark ink, and heat emboss those with white embossing powder. I'm using the anti-cling powder tool here so the embossing powder sticks to just the stamped greeting. I like using the MISTI for this to make sure it stamps exactly where I want it to go. Here's that white embossing powder. Just tap off the excess. And then I will heat emboss that. This little banner is going to go along the bottom edge basically of this background panel, and the machine and the bear are going to be sitting on top of it. So there is my little greeting panel. I also need to stamp the background. I'm also going to use the MISTI here to do this, and I'm using the Upon a Star constellations. Kind of a different way to use these. I'm going to stamp them all over the background, and originally I thought I would just stamp them with Versamark for that watermark look, but I didn't think they were standing out as much as I wanted them to, so I ended up embossing them with clear embossing powder on this Storm Cloud cardstock, and it's really going to make them pop. Go ahead and clean all those stamps off. I'm going to add the clear embossing powder. It does go on white, so I can see where I've already been, and then I'm using my powder tool. I didn't use it before I did it the first time. I'm again going to set this kind of in place. I only need them to be kind of on the outside. I don't have to fill the whole thing, but I want to make sure that there's some little stars all over so that you see them with the claw machine still in the center of the card. So stamped that real quick. Again, sprinkle on my clear embossing powder. Check to make sure if there's anywhere else that I think I need a little stamp. And I felt like I needed some more stars there, just right there along the left edge. And I'm going to heat emboss this. What I love about the clear is it's just going to darken these images then and make them kind of shiny on this dark cardstock. So really, they'll show up a lot nicer, but they're not going to detract or take away from the claw machine. Now I'm ready to attach that claw machine to my background, and I'm just going to run a little thin line of glue along the top there because it's so super thin with that die cut slider track. And this is going to be flush against that background I just created. I'll also put a little adhesive on the back of the greeting and tuck that right there underneath the legs of the claw machine. Try to get it lined up as good as possible so it's even on both sides with the overhang. Add that little bear sitting down by the legs of the machine with some glue dots. And he'll just sit right there. And then of course I'll have the little slider mechanism, but I've got to put the backing on the slider. I'm going to go ahead and put foam adhesive on the back of my panel. And originally I only put one layer, but 2 layers of foam adhesive work a lot better with a slider. It's just the way it is. So I did die cut a circle using the circle from the Push Here die set, which I'm going to be using on the inside of the card, or at least the Push Here stamp set. But I needed a circle for the slider and I wanted it to be clear. So I die cut it from transparency. This is replacing a penny that you might normally use for a slider type of card. So it's going to be a clear slider. And on the background, I'm just taking one of my red Copic markers and coloring in a section on that layer so that when you see through the slider, it's still going to be red. I doubled up all the foam adhesive. I'm going to peel off the backing on all of this, and I've of course got the little slider there, and center this on my zigzag layer. You can see already that it's going to be red there through the slider, and then my little claw slides back and forth along the top of the card. Go ahead and take a bone folder and fold my top fold card base really well, put some adhesive down, and I'm going to attach this whole panel to the front of my card. So cute little slider. The card would be fantastic as is with that slider moving back and forth. You can see how well he moves, how cute that is. But this is a birthday card, and I think it would be fantastic for adding a gift card inside. And I've taped the Lift the Flap largest die in place. And I'm also using Greetings from Your Clawsome and Push Here. So it's going to have an additional greeting, at this top of this panel, and then it's also going to say Open Me, so the recipient knows to open this card. Now I really should have removed my die. I don't know what I was thinking. I hadn't used it yet, and so I just kind of left it there, but I really should have removed it. And then I went ahead and heat embossed those greetings with some white embossing powder so they read You're Very Fun and Open Me. Then I have another layer with a zigzag stackable, and on that I'm going to use one of the simple gift slots to die cut some little slots that you can slide a gift card in. Go ahead and attach this panel over the gift slot panel, and that's going to open up to reveal a gift card. You can slip any kind of gift card inside. Plus I did die cut and color some additional images, the little claw here and the bear hanging from that. Then this whole thing is going to be adhered to the inside of the card, and there's the interactive element for the inside, so it really completes the design. I'm going to take some Nouveau crystal drops now and decorate those stars. So the stars are all going to be adorned with silver moon dust, Nouveau crystal drops, and then I did add some black drops using the ebony black throughout, and that's just going to kind of finish off decorating the outside of my card and give it a little bit of pizzazz. Thanks for joining me today for this Lawn Fawn card featuring the brand new Your Clawsome stamps and coordinating dies, as well as the Lift the Flap and Simple Gift Slots dies. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Lawn Fawn stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.